cloud.
Oh
All right,
Lord,
Annetta and Rebecca, take it away.
does that mean I have to actually be appropriate? Wait a
Eh,
minute.
kind of up
Oh,
to
okay,
you.
good, good. Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure and shocking to see so many people. Wow, I am completely blown away and honored. So, when Kay and I started talking, I said to Kay, you know that I'm in the process of creating this model, and I'm working with a couple of colleagues. And so we were discussing how would we introduce it in this particular conference and not just be about AI. And, I'm old enough now that I've studied a little bit. I've been in pretty much every industry you can think of, including the funeral industry, which usually makes people back away about 5 feet from me when I tell them that. And, I've worked in as a social worker at my previous incarnation, which I got kicked out of for many reasons. And I work in the school of business. So I'm one of those square pegs in a round hole in a square peg. I don't know how it goes. So I love flipping analogies. And I met a twin at AECT in 2024. And I met a Hong Kong international twinish in 2024 at AECT. And then, of course, Rebecca, for those of you who have the honor of working with her, is a mentor extraordinaire, quite frankly. And I she may have had the mistake of taking me on as a mentee. I'm not quite sure if she regrets that yet or not. But aside from that, one of the things that I knew as Rebecca took me on as a mentor, Rebecca was at 20, it had to have been 2023 is what I'm thinking. And one of the things I said is I really wanted to work with her, especially as we spent our time working through as a mentee and learning how to be a mentee, and of course, learning how to be a mentor at the same time. And the point of that story isn't to highlight and make Rebecca feel good today. She has plenty of us to rub her back and say thank you. You're wonderful. It is to talk about the human-centered piece of that process and how learning takes place between a teacher, a mentor, and a learner. And I have come into my PhD and teaching in higher ed as a trainer and developer. So I've always been that oddball who went, it's about the people we're teaching. And I don't care what you know. I care about what you can do with that knowledge. And my part is figuring out how to deliver it and work with you back and forth. And so I've always come from that approach. My colleague who is not with us today is Crisianee Berry, and she definitely is one of my twins because she too entered education from a very varied background, including being an art teacher. So very, very creative from the get-go. And she's currently at another conference. And so when you see us together, it's quite an experience. That aside, let's talk about how we created this framework that is really about human-centered AI. So I sort of gave you just a really brief opening about this of why the PRISM actually exists. So as you'll note, is that in 2024 we were complete strangers, but I kept showing up at sessions that Christine was at, and they were AI because in 2024 it was all AI at AECT. That was the theme, whether officially or unofficially. And I met Noble there, and Noble was presenting about studies that were going on in Hong Kong that he was part of. And I said, I really want to work with you. Now, part of it was selfish. I wanted to go to Hong Kong. And the other part was really building that international connection, which is extremely important to me. From that conference alone, we have formed an international AI committee that works together, and we meet every couple of months and do work together, including research. So we're headed that way this year of formalizing some research together. And it included an invitation that Rebecca couldn't make with Crisianee and I to Hong Kong to present this model in its third phase to see, is it international? Is it a global framework that we're creating? And so phase 3 has been a lot of fun for us. So when we started it, It was really slapped together. And, sometimes in our field, that's exactly what we do. We just slap things together, we get published, and then someone comes along and goes, oh, I like this idea. And they slap the model together, never really going back and looking at the theory. What's the thought behind this? What's the critical reflection behind this? It kind of sounds like the way we use AI sometimes. We definitely have seen this change since 2022 because I do a lot of international training. We're with a company out of Singapore and it's called In a Dashboard. I'm not trying to advertise for them, but they do team-based learning and team learning, which is my expertise. And so one of the things that happened in 2022 is oh my God, it's the first time I ever felt like I stood on a lineup and had tomatoes launched at us. And thank God I was in Alabama and I wasn't in Singapore because this was international. We had 233 participants freaking out about ChatGPT. And this was at the time that I was finishing my dissertation as well. And so we were talking about coaching and critical reflection and how do we teach this and how do we use it. In fact, I had to ask the director of our program, could I ethically use ChatGPT at the time to edit me and make me sound human? So, and ChatGPT at 2022 was pretty rough. So Crisianee and I came at this and Noble, and we went, okay, this is a really big deal. So I've been an early adopter, which is very rare for me, but I also realized that this was a really big deal that was going to impact my business students and change the way things were done, period, from education to manufacturing. And that's when I went back and said, okay, our history shows a new technique comes out, a new tool comes out, technology advances, and we have a meltdown. The world is coming down. It's Chicken Little. And I said, okay, I don't want to repeat this. And Crisianee said, we did this with social media. We had everybody flipping out about social media. She said, I don't want to approach it that either. And I said to her, you know what, Crisianee? I said, one of the things that we need to do is go back to the research and how did we become more systematic with it? How did we really look at learning and theory and put it together? And what happened with Crisianee and I is that we began from a very informal manner of doing this. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that she and I talked in December, January, and literally 2 weeks before classes started or 3 weeks before classes started, she had put in an IRB and she was doing almost identical with individual students, teaching teachers, what I was doing with teams. So I was informally presenting a management challenge after midterms to my teams in my introduction management course, allowing them to teach the class and coach the class. And so what we did is we said, okay, we're going to do this really informally. And after the semester was over, and even during the semester while we were doing some reflection, went, oh yeah, no, this isn't working. And so what happened is we approached it very human centric, right? We looked at it. Where's the role of the human? What do we need them to do? We were starting to think a little bit about accessibility in this design. I was starting to have students who needed additional support in teamwork, which made me think about, okay, how do I make all of this work, right? And then the next thing we did is, how do I make it inclusive? What communication practices do I need to do? And of course, the narrative of learning and this evolution started to come about. And so when Crisianee and I did this, we realized that, okay, before we start this, we need some sort of model or something to follow. And Crisianee said, well, I've got this thing that's called CAPE. And she said, I'm going to use CAPE, and I'll show that to you in a moment. And I said, okay, I can do this. I can take this out and show this to my students as I coach them through this. And So I set up in a meeting. I said, but wait a minute, Crisianee, if we're going to coach them through, we need to do some sort of reflection, right? That's the way students learn. And I said, we need to think about feedback. Again, that accessibility. Do we have a good model? Does it make sense? Are all of the learners able to participate in this? And so, we were asking the right questions. So even though I jokingly say we haphazardly put this together, it was very purposeful in what we were doing. So we developed semi-formal questions, we developed all sorts of things and just tested it. So we said phase one's kind of like a pilot. And what we saw along the way were some common things you all see early on when we start to do something new, which is challenges for the learners. Learners often relied on a single AI tool. And in the chat, tell me which one they relied on the most. What do you think? So we're going to do an informal poll right now. Which AI or LLM do you think our students fell in love with right away? All right, let's take a quick peek at this in the chat. And we see ChatGPT, Gemini AI. Nope, Gemini is actually relatively new. Claude wasn't around at that point. It was ChatGPT. You are spot on. And to this day, we're in the third to fourth semester of doing this. ChatGPT is the winner, even in the workplace, but I'll explain that. All right. So what we also began to see were informal reflection and accessibility gaps. We realized that some people found it a little overwhelming and challenging. Some of that was coming up in the answers to our reflection questions. And then we as designers completely recognized some of where we had really big gaps in what we were doing, but we knew we were. We knew we needed to start a starting point. And what's really funny is we were like, well, it's about prompting. We got to really work on this iterative prompting thing. We need to talk to them about this iterative prompting thing. We didn't necessarily think about how much we needed to interrogate the output like we probably should have been interrogating the output in this process. So it really ended up for us being a two-way street. We were working with the students immediately in the classroom and seeing what we needed to do. We sort of roped in Rebecca a little bit at this point. I said, look, we're going to be doing some iterative phases with this. So we're doing like phase one, phase two. We know that we want phase three. And Rebecca's like, just come to me when you have a sound, something that I can actually look at. Rebecca wanted something sensical, a little bit of logic. And well, Crisianee and I weren't quite there till we got, yeah, I know, just a little bit. I hear you. And so what happened is we talked to Amy Lomolini, we were talking to Rebecca because we knew the big picture, but Rebecca's like, go back to the details, go back to the details. So she refocused her squirrels. Her squirrels listened. And so I want to show you how we started this with phase one. Phase one is something that Crisianee found in her research, which was called CAPE, Chain of Thought. Again, that iterative prompting was the idea behind this. And so what happened was we talked about comprehending the problem, which in our instance was understanding the assignment we were giving them. And then they needed to articulate a plan. And so for me, my exercise was team-based. And for team-based, it was really easy. Okay, what is your plan? What are you thinking about? And that's when I would have them enter in. So they would begin this training process for me of discussing how they would how they would teach this chapter. To this day, and again, I'm in the third semester, I really understand how I want this exercise to work with my teams. They still don't enter the content from the class. In the first part of this, they don't think, oh, I should enter in the chapter, I should enter in the PowerPoints, I should enter in the specific materials that I want an LLM to explore. And so that's an interesting thing that I'm still seeing happen, and we need to talk to Crisianee a little bit because she has some interesting things going on at an individual level. The next thing was performing the plan. How did it go? You know, that metacognition piece to it. And then the examining the results, that's where we started going, okay, we want to bring in the ethics a little bit. You know, what did they think of this? What are the ethics? And so at that point, we started asking very broad strokes of accessibility, access issues. So some of those things came in right away as well. And so that led us to say over Christmas break, no, summer, it was summers. We started talking about this in May. And this is where we started to tell Rebecca a little bit more about what we were seeing. So Crisianee and I are very, very strict about recording what we do. So we immediately went in and discussed this more. And so what happened was we then created this thing called AI in the loop. And then we went, no, we're going to call it human in the loop. So we were calling it human in the loop. We were training. And please don't get mad at it, but there really is sense here. There's some accessibility. We did color coding, we did alignment, we had our critical questions, and it was just too much information, quite frankly. And so from that, we ended up going to the PRISM itself. And this is the model that Kay showed on the early morning show. And it is called the PRISM AI. We are in phase 3. And this is what that thrills me is when we went to name this, Crisianee and I actually said, oh my goodness, we hate the title. And then we went, well, you know, we're taking critical reflection models, which is Cobe and Gibbs reflection cycle. That's where our critical reflection questions were coming from. And then the specific coaching models. And what we realized is that we were talking about plan, run, interrogate, sense make, and meta reflect. And you'll notice the input output. The input gets reflected into output, right? You get a bigger rainbow on the outside. Well, that's really the output. How focused is your output is going to really depend on your input. And are you just going to copy and paste like a good old Google search, or are you going to question? So what we're finding is in
Annetta,
this, yeah.
Annetta, can you put up the slide that you have so that
Oh
people
crap, I'm talking from my side. Thank
can?
you, Rebecca.
Yay.
It's advancing on
Yay.
one side and not on the other.
Well, it's all good. It's all good.
Where did it
So
go?
one of the things, while Annetta's looking to do that, one of the things that we had to have conversations around was that if anybody's read any of the work that I do, accessibility should be first. It should be part of the initial thought development, through everything that we do in instruction. It shouldn't be an afterthought. And so when they came to me, I had one of those moments of, well, wait a minute, what's been going on in order to, make sure that this is accessible, make sure that you're meeting the students' needs and getting uh, feedback from them, right? So that they're able to contribute towards us. Go ahead and pull it up when you're ready, Annetta. I'm just
Is it
filling the
not
space.
showing?
No, it's not. Um,
Did I forget to share all this crap?
es posible.
Oh, good
Um,
Lord, y'all. I am so stinking sorry. You would think after years of teaching with Zoom, I would frickin' remember to share the bloody slides with you all rather than be
that's
talking and
okay.
boring the hell
That's
out of
okay.
you.
And
Uh,
and and you know what? I'm going to give everybody here the most amazing props because every one of you stuck through it for 20 minutes while she did this. So thank you all so much for looking at my squirrel and listening to her. But one of the things that I do want to touch on is we had to have several iterations and conversations around the fact that accessibility was not put in first, right? That it was an afterthought, that it was a thing that they brought into it. And but I think we did a really good job of remediating all the way back to the beginning and pulling out the things that didn't fit and bringing in the things that were missing from the beginning. So now I'm going to turn this back over to my squirrel. Thank you for listening.
so, squirrels, my fellow squirrels and people, thank you from me for actually listening. There really was logic behind what I was saying to you, I promise. And yes, there's a lot to be said for for not having the slides, but I'm really not that great to look at. I promise I'm not. I mean, my shirt is, but I don't stand tall enough in front of my camera. Anyhow, coming back to this. So this was phase 2 that we actually brought Rebecca in. We tested this with professionals in the field. And the biggest thing, besides color coding it and making sure that visually we had something going on, the other thing was probing. Probing became very important. And well, cool. Thank you, Austin. So from the probing piece, we really recognized what we were doing. Quite frankly, Crisianee and I in the May recognized that one of the things that we were doing with this was the fact that we were working this model. And it wasn't till we were getting ready to go to Hong Kong to present in January that we realized we have spent this whole time creating a model, coming through, sifting, interrogating, and looking at, okay, wait a minute. Where does critical reflection fall in this? Where does coaching fall in this? You can't have one without the other to not be human-centered in it and learner-centered, and the human being the one making the judgment calls, not the AI. And one of the things that Rebecca was really, really helpful in wasn't just the ethics and just the accessibility. It was the fact that I think Rebecca knew immediately that our design process is, look, let's just gather data. Let's find out what's out there. Let's get the feedback. And Rebecca was making sure her squirrels were very focused on the feedback piece so that we were doing the accessibility piece from the get-go with that being in mind. Yes, this is called CAPE, and we'd love to get you a really formal citation for it, but it was part of a presentation that someone did, so we don't have necessarily the academics behind it. With
Right,
phase
that's
2, all of this has academics and theory behind it. And so what's happened as we go into PRISM, now we will bring up PRISM, is that the PRISM has, are you ready? Cognitive load theory as part of it, cognitive theory of multimedia from Mayer. And then the other piece to this is breaking it down, which is part of cognitive load theory. And so what we're also doing is really working on that coaching piece of of how we talk and work with our individuals. Each of these slides has alt text. Yes, Rebecca, I finally got it all on my own and I figured it out all by myself. And what we're doing is sort of showing this to you. So I would be reading this properly and I would be seeing what we're seeing on the slide at the center symbolizes human judgment with AI input entering as a light being refracted through each phase before becoming output. Now, this metaphor emphasizes that AI generated content is shaped, questioned, and transformed through reflective practices. So what we've done is we brought in W3C. We are designing specifically now this model to be accessible, to have the contrast, to have the alt text, and it isn't an afterthought. It is part of the design process. And Rebecca, do you want to add anything else in that part of it when we talk about accessibility as infrastructure?
Yep. So the main thing with that is, as always, working with those that you're teaching, right? Working with the learner themselves and getting their feedback, getting their honest feedback, making them feel comfortable with telling you something. Because as we all know and understand, those that we're teaching are adults. They don't have to tell us if they have a disability or if they need an accommodation. That is their choice. But we are asking them to open up to us, to feel comfortable with us. And maybe they'll only see us once, hopefully more than once, because maybe we had teach more than one class, right? But we are asking them to feel comfortable with us, to share with us how they feel about something and how they use something. And when it comes to end of course surveys, we know how that runs. That's not always something that we get a lot of feedback on. And sometimes we don't always want the feedback that we get. I digress. But in this situation, we want to build that comfort level. We want them to feel like we're there for them and we're making this better, not just for them, but for the next students that come behind them. And we're making this to where they're going to be successful with the use of these tools in their professional life. They're going to move away from us and they're going to be on their own. One of the things that I say all the time is that our job as instructors and persons that teach people is we are there to make the learner whole. Our job is to make sure that they are whole at the end and they are able to do the things that they need to do on their own without the guide on the side all the time, right? So that right there is one of the most important things, or couple of the most important things that, I always share with the folks that I'm working with when I collaborate on products like that.
Yeah. And it's interesting. A couple of people I'd like you to follow more are going to be Philippa Hardiman, who is in LinkedIn as well as on Substack. I was actually introduced to her by Joanne Bentley, who is someone who is very significant to AECT and a part of AECT and is in the practice field working with instructional designers. So that is someone who's really big to follow. Amanda Bickerstaff is a very interesting person to follow as well for AI assessment and K through 12. So a couple of thought leaders to be following in the discussions that you have are there. This is a good time in the chat to share some of your core people that you follow so that you're staying abreast of things. I work in business, so this becomes very important. I was very clear to Crisianee and to Rebecca in this design process, as well as with the community of practice that we have created, that whatever we're doing in higher ed, at the end of the day, I need, just like Rebecca said, for them to be able to take it into the workplace. Because and I say this to my students every freaking semester, if not once a week, if you cannot explain how you're using AI, you will not keep a job. Because you are now having to demonstrate the skills, you are now having to discuss these skills. I am going to make you use AI in this class. Now, I attended a very interesting workshop. Please don't ask me when, because my life is crazy. But I attended an interesting workshop recently, and it was with the International Division. And one of the things that came up with it was, if someone doesn't want to use AI, allow them not to. That's just as important of recognizing our design being accessible. And I have a particular student who doesn't want to use AI. I've dealt with some interesting teams the last couple of weeks, and I completely respected it. He has his way of doing things. He wants to lower the imprint or the impact and his signature on technology. Again, I completely respect it and can't wait to the point I can do that. So one of the things that we have to balance out, and it is part of ethics, is allowing our students that critical thought. Civics for Thought, I think of the Civics of Thought, is another fabulous work site to go to for that real critical thinking on ethics. I bring those things into the classroom. I want to make my students uncomfortable, that friction, so that they're thinking about these things, because they're like, we don't want to think about it unless it impacts us. We've asked these questions. These are some of the themes that are coming up. And that actually segues very nicely to my next slide here. And that is, if I quit covering my next slide, let's try this again. Here, there's more than one way to get this bad boy or girl. And that is looking forward together. So we're in phase 3. What does phase 3 look like? Well, phase 3 is taking it out of the classroom. I have successfully trained at a local nonprofit, and my executive director gave me feedback last week. And let me tell you, it was freaking exciting. Rebecca, I haven't even told you this. She said of the 7 employees that attended, only 1 employee is not using it successfully. And her oldest employee, who's been there for 36 years, has begun picking up the management pieces she is supposed to have under her job title. She now has expanded her capacity to be able to do the job she's been hired to do on the leadership team. Ironically, the youngest person in that staff, who is 27 and in charge of marketing, still refuses to use AI. Now, the irony of that position is that they need to be using AI because AI will replace them. And that becomes what we're going to continue to see once these students leave our classrooms. This is a very important thing to think about. So human-centered really is about being learner-centered and where are they going when they leave us. I am a gardener, literally and figuratively. I plant seeds all the time. This time I'm cultivating the seeds because the students need that friction. We did an article for JPED, which hopefully we will officially be accepted in. And what we're finding from our initial coding in Crisianee's is that indeed our students don't want to use this model because it requires them to do a little extra work. Rebecca and Crisianee have to drag me off of AI just because I have so much damn fun with it. I'm totally entertained, complete nerd with it, but I still keep the human piece in it as well. Okay. So as we go, before we open this up to you for your question and answers, you've all been so patient about that, by the way, unless I bored the hell out of you and you just don't want to talk, and that's possible too. You'd be one of the few people who's told me I'm boring, but that's okay. I can handle it. It won't hurt my feelings. So one of the things is what we really want you to take away so far is this is a collaborative framework. Internationally, we have positive reviews as well. We had about 25 people who attended our conference in Hong Kong who are bringing it back. It includes one of our colleagues in China who would like us to come in and do some research with that. We have intentional reflection in this design and will not be pulling that out. Ethical AI and accessibility is a piece of this. It belongs not only in the classroom, but beyond the classroom. It should just be part of our competencies as an employee. And then an invitation to ongoing dialogue. One of the things that we are now doing is going to be testing it. So from phase 3 to phase 4 is coming back and actually testing our model. Is it predictive? Because what we've done is we're basing this out of expectancy value cost theory. And so the whole point of this, and Cade, please pitch in if you want to add a little bit more, is the fact that we really are about, I just want to take you back to the model itself. We really are about the theory behind it, that this wasn't just something of noodles going against a wall. We've been really critically reflecting upon how to do this in a systematic kind of way. And thank you. Thank you for your time. Now we're ready for your questions.
It's the end. Yep, that's it. Maybe
and sorry, I'm pulling a student thing here.
And so maybe pull up just the framework itself so that folks can look at it.
Yeah,
so
I want to do that, but I want to give it give it the real slide.
Sure.
There it is. Okay, here we go.
Thank you. And we will work on sharing some of the slides, the ones that we're able to. As Annetta said, we are in the process of getting publications done, and we need to make sure that we're very careful with how things are shared at this time.
Yeah, and I really would appreciate those of you who took a screenshot of our model. Please don't put it out there yet.
Yeah.
Please.
Yep. We're really trying to be, very thoughtful behind all of the work that we're doing behind it before we release it as a full-fledged framework. So this is framework. This is like it's like what is it? The little wheels that you used to put on the bikes for kids, right?
Oh, it's training wheels.
Yeah. But actually, I feel like we're more one of those big wheels that have the brake.
But with the brake, and you could flip it. Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's Chris, you're saying it's still in process. The process really is getting the publication. The students' feedback right now is no, this is perfect. We wouldn't add anything to this. So when my students are telling me that, and my executive directors are telling me that, and Crisianee and I both felt that way. Rebecca, I don't know about you because we didn't flat out ask you, but we actually feel this way. We call it a framework, y'all. And we literally talked about, is it a framework or a model? And the reason we chose framework over model, even though we'll lapse back into using the word model, is a framework literally by definition means that it can be adjusted, it's flexible, it's adaptable, whereas a model is still it's a little bit more firm. Go ahead, Rebecca.
So I was going to say, think of it this way. Everybody who hears somebody say the Addy model and cringes and understands that Addy is not a model, it's a framework because you
Yeah.
have that flexibility, you have that movement within it. That's why this is a framework. It allows you, even when we are finished with the data and we've put our final stamp on it, it allows you in the process of working with your students to flex within that framework, whereas a model is very rigid. So,
And and there's a reason behind that. And I want to let each of you know that. We have lawyers, we have medical professions, we have tech people, we have education, IDD. So we are in many fields with this. And so that's another reason why we were trying it in business. We were trying it in international waters, is so that it really does live up to the word framework. As we know as instructional designers, those of you who are instructional designers, is that you don't have to be an expert in the content that you're working within. You have to be an expert within the way it's delivered. And that's the idea, is we're creating a framework that people are learning what questions to interrogate the content and the output with that's appropriate for their field. As opposed to, say, business, law and lawyers are going to ask different questions of that output. The healthcare industry is going to ask different questions of that output. Rebecca.
yeah, and also too, when you're working with these different populations, it's going to be what you have also too is the uniqueness of the learner, right? So you're going to come in and maybe you're working with a legal group and they have a lot of technology experience, but then maybe you go to nursing, not that nurses aren't tech, but maybe you go to a nursing group and they have less experience with the tools and such. And so there's just so much variation with who you're going to be working with that makes us want to make sure that there is a lot of movement, not just for them, but for the person that is facilitating. So
Yeah.
thoughts, questions, comments, peanut galleries? I don't care. Chris Lutch, I know he's got something to say.
Oh, I was thinking Brandon or Kay.
Hey, always.
Actually, I was gonna jump on because you were saying about, the informed objectivist, or if you want to call them the conscientious abstentionists who don't want to use AI. I can tell you at my college, we're getting one or two per class, sometimes more. And like the marketing person you were talking about, the person who is young and doing marketing, well, I have to say, and it might not be hubris. At this point, she might think that what she creates is better
Right.
than what she can get out of AI. And
Yeah.
I have to say, some of us we're still at that. And I see, especially in a multimedia and graphic design, that people who have honed their craft can go in and make that image much faster than they can have AI do it. So I'm seeing a lot of pushback in that area. And then tell me, I'm going to say in chat, tell me, anybody, if this has ever happened to you. Someone has sent you something, it was written by AI. I'm not even talking to student. It was written by AI, right? And it's somebody who doesn't know learning design or educational technology as well as you do. And you read it and you're just like, my God. You're going like, I'm gonna have to rewrite this whole thing. Okay, so I think we're still at a place where there are experts, or I'm even going to call them bricolayers out there, who like who use their 20 years of experience in something whatever that is. And you know, what they come up with, it looks, you know, it looks a little different.
Yeah.
You know, I train the general public. So I'm in training and development and have been for about 30 years. And one of the things that I tell people, because I talk about managing emotions, I talk about communication. One of the things that I really appreciate about AI is if you're an explosive, you have a vomit mouth or you freeze because, you know, depending on the intensity of emotions, some of us just shut down. AI is a great way to help you respond faster. It's a great way to spark, oh, I could say this, or oh, that's what I wanted to say. And so that it can help keep you out of trouble. It can help those who get analysis paralysis to respond faster for their job. Communication is very, very there's so much information on communication and helpful information on communication. You know, let AI help you in these areas so that you get better performance reviews, right? Versus other things. Yeah, AI really, Chris, that's perfect. It is an assistive technology, and that's what we did. We created the training. Hold on one sec, Rebecca. When I ended up doing this training and designing it, I didn't realize I was going to design a leadership training. But ultimately, what came out of this is busy work. Let it be your increase your capacity with things and be more efficient with it, not let it replace your thinking and your experience. Rebecca.
Well, I was just going to say, so it's taken us a while to get to this point with AI where, you know, there's more trust with it, there's more appropriate use with it. And, you know, it's one of those things where we have to sit back and then we have to teach those that are going to use it how to use it appropriately.
Yeah.
What are the things that you can and can't do with it, should and shouldn't do with it? You know, I had a friend the other day, a colleague on LinkedIn, he asked a question. He said, you know, what is the appropriate use of AI when using it for generating images, right? He had no concept of like what that might be. Are there ethical considerations? Are there things that you know you should put in your mind? And of course, I sit at that crossroads of ethics and accessibility. And, you know, for me, essentially, very short is that, you know, as long as you are not misrepresenting groups, as long as you are, you know, not creating or perpetuating disinformation and things like that, right? Um, then you're getting at a better use of it than what a lot of people have been doing.
Mhm.
All right. So we've got just a couple of minutes left.
All right, I want feedback. What did you all think of the model, our development of the PRISM model? What are your thoughts?
I take that as a win. Let's go. Done. Mic
Saturday we
drop.
have a room full of seekers that we overwhelmed.
Love that. I do like a room full of.
I think we're gonna have to use it. You know, like looking at it, it looks good.
It's a lot of fun to train with. By the way, we created facilitator guides with each part of what we did. And so again, we've been pretty really even though Crisianee and Rebecca and I can squirrel really well, we've actually been really focused about being logical in the way of doing this with our expertise and our background. So we've had a lot of fun. We do squirrel, but we do get the job done. Go ahead, Rebecca.
You're good.
Okay. Yeah. Kay, I would be more than glad to run an exercise for people who are interested and run them through this process. I really enjoy it, and it would be fun to bring Crisianee in to do it as well, and Rebecca. But yeah, if people are interested, this is what I do. This sounds so bad. I feel like Wreck-It Ralph and Penelope, but this is what I do now. So
Okay. So what we're saying is this summer you're willing for me to send out a message to the people who attended the conference saying we're going to do a workshop with you on this model. Is that correct?
If people will be kind enough to give me a reduced area or a fun area in Colorado to do it from, yes. I'm trying to make it out to Colorado and have a good reason to be out in Colorado for work.
Actually, I think we can. I think we can. I'm looking at our participants. I'm like, Julie B, are you here? What do you think, Julie?
Yeah.
I'm looking to see if
the only request is I can't have cats. Unfortunately, I love them and I'm horribly allergic to them. And I love national parks and I need to go to several in Colorado. Aside from that, I would be glad to do that. And I think I can't speak on behalf of Crisianee. She's very booked this summer. And Rebecca, you have to tell me what your schedule is like.
Well, you know what? I think the key is let's find out what the interest is, and let's look for the space, even if we have to hold it virtually. We're excited to do this. We want to do this. We want more people, using this, really thoughtful, reflective way of working with students and getting them prepared for that goal, that professional goal that they want to get.
And I actually wouldn't mind doing it hybrid so people feel comfortable doing it hybrid. Because this is easy enough to do hybrid, where we're doing it in class and working with virtual teams at the same time. By the way, I teach that way, and I have 2 minutes. So wrapping up, let's see if we had any questions. Which is getting people to reflect. Austin, the reflection isn't so bad, but they do need the coaching from it. Do you know what the hard part of this actually is from the students? Is getting them to use 2 different AI platforms at the same time. They don't think to interrogate it. And most of them are like, oh, I didn't think about the interrogation. I didn't think about how subtle the biases are. And so, and we also put into this your assumptions. And they are very uncomfortable thinking about what they think about before they engage in it. Which that's not to be unexpected. That's just a human quality,
Yeah. Thinking about thinking.
Yeah. Thinking about thinking, exactly.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was noticing as well is that students are very brand loyal to their AI.
Yes.
It's just like it's the old PC versus Mac, but now it's the various AIs. They're like, oh, I need to do this one. It has to be this one. No, that's junk. Why is it junk? Because it was based on Reddit. So is yours. And it's like, or mine's on Twitter or whatever. It's like, it's interesting to have them and hear them debate each other about like which AI is the best.
There is a huge increase, Chris, of people moving over to some Claude, more of them checking out Gemini and Copilot. So I am seeing a little bit more diversity.
Yeah.
Now,
And there
Claude,
are people building their own because Brandon has built his own.
right.
So there are lots of people that build their own.
Yeah. I'm not seeing that as much. I'm seeing more people over the course of time purchasing one though.
Brandon is an oddball out. So
I'm a nerd.
I have people using Claude for coding and creating the bots though, Rebecca, for it to run stuff. So I'm seeing that starting to happen a little bit. Okay, you all. I hope we blew you away. I'm not sure. I'm not used to not getting any questions.
thank you.
Yeah, you got questions.
We're kind of a thinking group, right? Need time to absorb and go that route. So thank you both. Go ahead, Rebecca. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I was going to say you can find Annetta and I on LinkedIn and reach out to us later if you have questions or want to just continue the conversation. We're both available for that. So
And again, if there is an interest for us to run it, let us know and ask those questions during it as well. All right,
Awesome.
it's 51. I'm a minute late. Goodbye.
That's okay. Thank you both to Annetta and Rebecca. Please fill out the session feedback survey. Very important to us. That link is in chat. Let us know in Discord if you have any questions about that. As far as slides, we will see if Annetta and Rebecca can give us the slides that they are able to provide. And we will throw those in Discord, and I'm going to try and create a repo that we can share out on the ELK website. So thank you again. We have a huge slew of sessions coming up, so please find one to join in and join our Discord.
Good stuff coming up. We got Dr. Robbie Melton today, by the way.
Yeah.
Keynote, great keynote.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.